Hello there and welcome to Gary's channel. As you can see, we've got a lot on the bench today. Lots of 3D printed bits, wooden bits, metal bits, cogs, pulleys, you name it. So if you want to see what we're making, let's stick around. Well, thank you for sticking around. As I say, today we've got a lot of 3D printed parts. These have all been printed on my Anycubic shear, and I've just given these a coat of primer just to sort of give us a head start, really. We've got quite a few bits, and what it's going to be is basically it's going to be what they call a whirlygig. What I'll do is I'll put a little description down below or to the side or somewhere, just telling you about the history of the whirlygigs. Now, this was inspired by a program I used to watch many years ago called New Yankee Workshop, and I think his name was Norm Abraham, and it was quite an inspiration to me, really. But I remember him making a whirlygig of him standing at a saw bench, and that gave me the inspiration. So onto Fusion 360, and this is what I come up with. So basically, this will go onto a pole from underneath, and it will spin in the direction of the wind. It will have a propeller on the front, and this will be effectively just a base, and on top, this is where the saw bench will be. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's going to fall off. But that will be where the saw bench will be. And then we're going to have a guy that will be pushing the saw, pushing through the wood. So we've got lots of bits. We've got a little front panel I made. I don't know if you can see that. Little front panel I made just to make it look a little bit more realistic. We've got a 6mm metal rod that will run the entire length. Right, so now first job for me is I always like to give it a coat of paint first. I just find it easier that way, just to paint everything up, then glue it together. And then if you need to touch up, you can touch up in places, but it's a lot easier to get into. So what I'll do is I'll do a sort of speeded up version of me painting it, because you don't want to sit here hours and hours watching me with a paintbrush. And once we've painted it, we'll come back. well, that's all the bits painted, and now for the assembly really. This is the first time obviously I've designed this, and so it's a sort of bit make it up as you go along, you know, seeing what's going to go where and everything. One thing I have done is I've changed the shaft to a brass shaft. The only reason was I ordered a 6mm worm gear drive, but it came up as being a 7mm when I got it. So what I did was the only piece of rod I had that was 7mm was a bit of brass. It's the only reason I've used that. But this is something that you will need to purchase. I'll put a link into it, and that is a worm gear drive, because I'll explain a little bit later, but you've got to change the direction of turn basically. So anyway, we've got the main base, as you can see. So I mean, it's not a finished paint, but it's, you know, it's a good coat of paint to begin with. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the shaft in. Now what I've done is I've taken the liberty, I don't know if you can see that, I'll hold it up under there, I've drilled a few holes and drill and tapped, and that'll become clear in a little while I've done that, why I've done that. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the rod in. Now the rod goes through here obviously, and I'm just checking what's back, what's front. That's it. So what we need to do now is we need to slip some collars on. Now I don't know if you can see in the overhead camera, these will act as little locking collars to stop any end play in the shaft when it's rotating, because that's very important for it to stay meshed with the worm gear. So we'll put one of those on first, and then we need to attach the worm gear drive. So one collar on here, I'll get it in. The worm gear. Now what you might find it easy to do is put the worm gear on in the second half, otherwise you won't get over the centre hump. I suppose I should mention that I am in the process of making a website, obviously called garyscorner.co.uk, but to be honest I am struggling a bit with it at the moment. Never really built a website like this before, and it's all new to me, so I'm sort of trying to plan my way through it. But what I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to have plans on there, and this plan will be on there, and you'll be able to download it free, and I'll give you all the links to the bits and bobs I've used, and if you've got, provided you've got 3D printer of course, you can print the bits out and, you know, make it just the same as me, and they make a really nice present, so, you know, something to think about. Right, so we've got that bar through. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put this, which is again in the kit, I'll show you that on the overhead lens. This is your end handle, I suppose, if you want to call it. That's actually going to drive the hand of the whirly figure. So this is not the best way of doing it. I'm doing it on my lap, and sorry, but it's the easiest way for me in the chair. So we put that on there over the out. Now I've took the time to, put in the screwdriver. Let's do it right. Let's put in the screwdriver and do it right. I've taken the time to you know, drill and tap these holes. I've drilled them out to a 3mm screw size, but in all honesty, if you wanted to, then there'd be nothing to really stop you just gluing these on. It's only me being me. Right, let's get that screwed in. Okay, that just acts as a stop so we know where our stop point is. Then we need to lock this collar off. You can see that. So again, just another screw. On the end. Try and locate, that's it, locate the out. A few twists, you're not doing it right up for now because you're going to have to take it back off. Okay, so we've got, at the end there we've got this little handle. This will have a little bar coming out of it. It's not to turn, it's to drive the actual figure. That'll become clearer later. So now we want to do this stop. So position your hole to the top. Get your screw. And just pop that one in. Right. Now I've changed a bit. And what we'll do is we'll slide this up, and you need to slide that up all the way to more or less where that centre bulge comes. I don't know if you can see. In there is a little bulge to support the rod that comes through, so you've just got to be just sort of short of that really. And then give that up a little nip. Right, we're getting somewhere. Okay, so we'll go through what I've just done. I've just put a collar on here. I've just put a collar on there. That stops any sort of major end play. And I've put a drive on here, and that will become obvious later what that's for. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. Now this one, this is your worm drive, and I've taken the liberty to pre-cut another lump of 7mm brass. Now what this does is this will sit, away we go, okay. This will sit I don't know if you can see that. That will basically sit in there like that. But we've obviously got to anchor that in. Now, rather than make it sort of complicated for myself, I just cut off, this is a bit of old knife making material I used to have for handles, and you know, it's ideal. So I've drilled 2 7mm holes in it, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to place either end on there and on there, and then I'm going to drop that in like so into the position, and then glue that into position. But first, most importantly, is we need to attach a plastic pulley. So if it will fit, wrong one, this one. So we attach that like so, but we've also got to glue this in place, but we don't need to do that straight away. We can do that at a later stage, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to put this in there, glue that in, so that is sitting on there, and then that gives us another source direction of drive. Alright, and what I'll do is I'll do it on camera, but I'm going to do it not talking because it's a little bit fiddly, and so I'll speed it up a little bit and we'll come back once we're at the next stage. Alright. Right, well, I've just made myself a cup of tea, wet the old whistle. It ain't tea unless it's Yorkshire tea. While the glue's drying, few people have asked me who my little friend is, so I thought I'd introduce her. So, come on, Jess, come up here. Oops. And there she is, my little soulmate, really. This is Jessie, and she does everything with me. She's my little company and my little friend, basically, and I love her to bits. So she's always patiently watching in the background, wanting to sit up on my lap and somehow help or hinder me in some way. But yeah, I love her to bits, and wouldn't be without her, you know. Anyway, I'll drop her down and we'll get back to the build. Okay, so I've knocked that through the centre there, and what I've done is I've also glued a little pulley just here onto the blade so that we can run a little elastic band or a piece of rubber of some sort through there. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to slide these bits on, nothing complicated. And then we're going to position them over the table like so, and what I suggest you do is sort of butt it up fairly close so that your blade will sit in the centre of the cutout of the table. Alright, and what I also just suggest that you put a couple of little fibre washers either side of that, just to pack it out, just so the actual supports don't stick proud of the slot. Alright, if that makes sense. So I'll just get some fibre washers and we'll go from there. Okay, what I've got is some little nylon washers there, and what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put any on this side because it doesn't really need it. It's got the plastic pulley, but this side I think you should fit. Yeah, I'm going to put 3 on because it will just push that little support out just a little bit better, really. Now, for glues, I do use a number of different glues. Obviously something like this wants to be, doesn't have to be massively strong, but it needs to be strong, you know, because there's some tension being pulled downwards once it's in position like this. There'll be some tension being pulled down from just, you know, from the elastic band. So it wants to be on there at a reasonable rate, should we say. Now what I tend to use is, there's a number of glues really. I've got an ultraviolet setting super glue, which is absolutely brilliant. Costs quite a bit of money, about 30 quid for a tiny little pot. But, you know, you can put it on, get in position, hit it with that ultraviolet torch, and instantly it goes off. The other glues I use really are just mainly an 2-part epoxy resin, and also occasionally for various other projects I'll use PVA. So there's a number of varieties of things you can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this, and once that's glued I'll come back.